On today's show, we're talking all about memberships. How would you like to have 300 active members paying around $50 a month and people are leaving at a really, really low rate? That's what my guest today has accomplished in just a couple of years. Stay tuned to find out how. Hey out there, Jacques Hopkins, and welcome to episode 229 of the Online Course Show. Obviously, by the name of the podcast, we feature a lot of online course success stories around here, but today we're showing some love to memberships. My guest today is Kelly Tay from Singapore. Kelly runs a thriving membership called Juicy Parenting, where she helps Asian parents with parenting strategies. The way she explained it to me is in many Asian cultures, respect goes up, but not always down, meaning you respect your elders, but elders usually aren't respectful of their children, which can lead to hitting or other forms of discipline that Kelly doesn't necessarily agree with. And Kelly's message is respect should go both directions, and parents can still get the results that they're looking for without hitting their kids. Kelly does this with a course, which is included inside of her membership, along with a community and live Q&A calls. In this conversation, you'll hear us discuss courses versus memberships, how she has over 300 active members driving traffic only from Instagram, and plenty more. With that, let's dive into it. Hi, Kelly. Welcome to the Online Course Show.
Hi, Jacques. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I'm so glad we could make this happen. Look, to start with, what is your niche?
I'm in the parenting space, and specifically the Asian parenting space. So what I do is I help Asian parents stop hitting their kids. That's like the one-line version of what I do. Essentially, what I'm trying to do is move people away from very harsh, punitive ways of parenting into more evidence-based, mutual respect, communicative relationship type of parenting where we can still run a very disciplined household without having to be harsh and punitive.
Why Asian parents?
Because I'm Asian. No, but seriously, because honestly, when I was studying this stuff about parenting, I noticed that all my course instructors were honestly Caucasian, and it was stuff created by Caucasian for Caucasian people. And while a lot of what they were saying made sense, the truth is a lot of it was also not really applicable to an Asian cultural context. So one example is a lot of times the course creators would say, and if the grandparents don't approve of your way of doing things, just cut them out of your life. The kids don't get to see them because it's your family and your rules. The truth of it is, in Asian families, we don't work that way. We parent very much in connection with extended family members. A lot of us rely on grandparental support to have caregiving duties for our kids. So it's just not possible to say, we're going to cut you off because you're not doing things my way. And so I quickly realized that there was this gap where there was a lot of good parenting advice that was coming out, but it wasn't entirely applicable in Asian cultural context, and that I could fit and fill that gap.
I appreciate the additional context. I aspire to be up to speed on different cultures and be well-traveled, but I'm ashamed to admit I don't think I've experienced any Asian countries at this point, and I need to change that. So the context definitely helps there. You are Asian, and you're currently living on the other side of the world for me right now, right? Where are you located?
Yeah, so I'm Singapore. I'm in Singapore. I'm Singaporean. So I'm all the way on this side of the world. Please come. We have great food. I'll take you to eat some great food.
Perfect. You're born and raised there? You've lived there your whole life?
Yeah, so born and raised. I spent a lot of my studying time in the States and in other countries. But born and raised here, very much a product of an Asian parenting upbringing, I suppose, and looking to change some of that. I think there's a lot of good that comes with an Asian upbringing, but there's also a lot of things that need to change. So how I talk about my work is I talk about respectful parenting for Asians. And a lot of times people will use words like positive parenting, gentle parenting, conscious parenting. I like the word respectful because I think in an Asian cultural context, respect is so important. But the problem is respect only goes one way. It goes up. So to people who are older, who have more power, higher in hierarchy, but it never really goes down to people who are younger and lower on the rung. And that's one thing that I'm trying to change. I'm trying to say, hey, you know what? Kids are human beings from birth. They are worthy of respect from the beginning. And, to be frank, while all of you in North America, my husband's from Canada, while all of you in North America are talking about, being kinder to kids, speaking in a gentler way, on this side of the world, it's still very much legal to hit kids. And in Singapore schools, you can hit boys. The discipline master can cane boys. Cane is like a long rattan stick that you can use to whack boys. It's just part of the culture here. And so I think when I speak with people from North America or Western cultural context, they're often like, but why do we have to say it's not okay to hit kids? I'm like, you don't understand how much of the norm it is here. In Singapore, you would bring your kid to the shop to choose which cane they would like to be hit by. And then you'll be like, you want the red one, the purple one, like which one do you want? And then you would buy that for your kid. So while you guys are on the other side of the world talking about, how do we improve parenting in these ways, I'm over here trying to say, hey, let's not hit kids. And very much when I say that in local cultural context, people are often like, what do you mean? Like my kid will be, just a brat if I don't hit them. They will not achieve anything in life if I don't hit them. And so I'm very much trying to say, look, if we change the word child to spouse, right? If you hit your spouse, doesn't matter what the misdemeanor was. It doesn't matter what good intentions you had. It would be called abuse, right? It would be assault. It would be battery, but it's not that way for kids. And so that's what I'm trying to change here.
That is so interesting. How are you able to sell an online program like that? I mean, is it lesson 1, don't hit your kids, and then course over? How does it work?
Well, so my course is split up into 2 parts. So the first part is really about the theory. It's about the science behind why it's not such a good idea to be so harsh and punitive with your kids. What does the science say? The theory. And this is what you will get, even if you did a course from somebody else. I don't pretend to have come up with this stuff myself. It's just what psychologists and neuroscientists say. I'm not saying anything new. The part that I am saying something new about is in the second half of the course where I have 3 frameworks that I ask parents to follow when it comes to respectful parenting for an Asian context. And that's where the how actually happens, where it's like, okay, this is where we begin. And honestly, a lot of times people come to me thinking, I'm going to tell you about what you can do with your kid. Like when they're having a tantrum, what do you do? And then they finish my course and they realize, oh, actually 80% of this work is about me. It's about myself. It's about knowing what my triggers are. It's about understanding my child's brain better. It's about understanding myself better so that I can then respond in an appropriate way. So I think a lot of times people come thinking like, Kelly's going to solve my tantrums and she's going to tell me what to do with my kids. And like, yeah, I do that a little bit, but a lot of what I do is actually looking at parents, us as individuals, as adults. What kind of narratives are we brought up with around discipline and how can that change? So one example would be, we think about discipline a lot as laying the smack down. Like, this is how to do things, scare your kids, make sure they know who's boss. But actually, if we look at the original meaning of the term discipline, it's all about teaching. It's from Old Latin and it's closer to the meaning of like a disciple. So looking at someone who's a student who is in the midst of formation. So that's how I try to change mindsets. Like a lot of it's teaching people about what does discipline actually mean? What are we trying to teach here? And then going from there.
So the first part is essentially the why behind it, why this is important, why it may produce even better results for what they're looking for. And the second part is more how we do this, how you get the result you're looking for without the traditional way of hitting.
Yeah.
It's interesting with you mentioned the culture several times earlier. My main course is teaching piano. I don't have to convince people why they should learn piano. So I feel like I'm at a big advantage compared to somebody like you. People already know they want to play the piano. They know what that looks like. They just need a really good course to help them get there. How much convincing, or how let me ask it this way. Does your audience want to stop hitting their kids?
Yeah, so I think that people mostly fall into 2 camps. You have the people who know they want to stop hitting their kids because they're seeing the effects of it. They're noticing that the kid is distant from them, don't really know what's going on in the kid's life because the kid doesn't talk to them. And they're noticing that there's a problem. I want to fix this. So I truly believe no one actually wants to hit their kids. No one wants to be punitive. No one wants to be a rage monster and shouting all the time. It's just you don't know what else to do. So even as you find yourself escalating, you're like, I really don't want to do this. I shouldn't do this, but I don't know what the alternative is. So I would say one big camp, one lot of people fall into that camp where they know there's a problem and they're looking to fix it. And then there is a group of people who are like, well, there's nothing wrong with hitting my kid. I was hit. I turned out great. Look at me now. I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer. I have a family. I'm great. Why would I not hit my kids? And to be honest, I used to be in that camp prior to having kids, prior to going down this journey. I used to be in that camp. That's how I was raised. And so with that camp, it's really just about talking. Some people are convinced by the science behind it, talking about the neuroscience, what a child's brain is like. That helps. For a lot of people, it's more asking them to reflect on their own experiences. Like, did hitting actually help you learn anything? Or did it just teach you to hide your mistakes better? Because the harshest parents raise the sneakiest kids, because they know that if I tell you about this mistake I made, there's going to be hell to pay. So I'm just going to hide my mistakes more. So with that camp of people, it's more talking about that. But I would say generally people fall into two camps. And there are a lot of people who know that this is something I do want to change. I just don't know how to make it happen.
So big, broad question for you here. How did you get into this?
Oh man, I love this question. So I was actually a journalist, a financial journalist for Singapore's financial daily newspaper for 6 years. And then after that, I moved into the banking space. And then I had my first child. And then I quit my job. I quit my corporate career entirely. I genuinely loved motherhood. And I was like, I'm going to throw myself into this. And then I very quickly realized that, I have 2 degrees. I went to school to learn, a particular area of education. And then I went to school to learn how to drive. I went to school to learn skills to do things, but I never went to school to learn how to be a parent. I don't know how to raise a good human being, right? Like it just seemed really absurd to me that we go to school for all these things, but the most important job in my life, raising a child, being responsible for human life, I got no training for. And so how I got into this was that realization, and then diving deep into all the causes that were out there, including some professional level ones. Like my cohort mates were like principals of schools. I just found myself as this new mom in these causes, studying this stuff. And it wasn't just about discipline, because back then I just had a baby. It was like I was doing courses on like starting solids, brain development, sleep, gross motor development. And what I found was all the things that really resonated with me were approaches that looked at the child as a whole human being from birth, someone that's worthy of respect, someone who has their own point of view. Maybe they don't understand the exact words we're saying, but they understand, the touch of our hands, our tone of voice, our facial expression, our body language. And that really struck me because typically babies are just seen as these lumps who just lie there, right? And so all these approaches that really respected the whole child as a human being worthy of, your opinion matters to me. It really did such a huge shift in my mind. And so what would happen was I would be going on these play dates, or as my kid got older, we went to playgrounds. And people would stop and ask me like, hey, I heard you say this to your daughter. That's really strange. So an example would be like diaper changing. I would be diaper changing, a baby that was 6 months old. And I would take a wet wipe and say, okay, I'm going to change your diaper now. A wet wipe's coming. It might be a bit cold. Here I go. And they'd be like, why are you talking to a 6-month-old baby and telling her that a wet wipe is coming? Like, she doesn't understand. And so it opened up these conversations about how actually I'm learning that they do understand a lot. And then I would tell them more. And then people would be like, wow, that's really cool. Can you teach me? And I'm like, no, I don't have a course. I don't teach this. It's just something that I'm learning as a parent. Here are all the books you can read that I'm reading. Here are all the courses I've taken that you can take. And then the general, the constant thing I kept hearing was, I don't want to do that. I don't have time. I don't have the interest. Can you condense it all for me? And so for the longest time, I was like, no, it's all there. I'm not saying anything different. Just go read it yourself. But then I had my second kid and I was doing everything from scratch again with a newborn. And I was just going back into it from like the newborn stage and realizing, no, I actually do have something to say because of that gap in the market with regard to an Asian cultural experience. I was like, I think there is something that I have to say here that maybe I can fill this gap. And so I decided to just put an open call on Instagram being like, would any of you be potentially interested if I taught something like this? And then I created a just a Google form asking people to give their emails, telling me what they were interested in. And then I launched it. I capped it at 30 spots for my first course because I taught it live over Zoom. So I capped it at 30 spots. And I had no idea, right? Like, would people even be interested? I knew people who were talking to me were interested, but like the wider audience, was this too out there for Asian parents to be interested in? And then it sold out in a few hours. And I was like, holy crap, maybe there is something to this. So I kept doing that a few times with several live batches, and each time it was the same kind of response. And I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this. I guess it's a business now. And so that's how I got into this. I didn't get into it because I wanted necessarily to be like, this is my thing. I'm going to put the flag in the sand, you know? It was like people were asking, and I was like, okay, let's try. So that's how I got into it.
I resonate so much with what you said about, you go to school, you learn all these things, you take courses on all kinds of stuff, but not so much when it comes to parenting. I remember when our first daughter was born almost 9 years ago now, you spend a couple days in the hospital and then you leave the hospital. And I'm like, you're just going to let me leave with this little thing? Like I just, you feel so unprepared, especially on the first one.
Yes.
So
100%.
Your story is very, very interesting. To give us some context behind the timing of all this, how old is your oldest?
So she will be 5 in August.
So when you're talking about the talking to your baby with the diapers, that's almost 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then how long ago did you do that open call on Instagram?
So I launched my course December 2021. So this is by December this year, it would have been my 3rd year of business. It's like 2.5 years old.
So about 2.5 years ago at the time we're recording this is when you did that. Okay. So important question here. You had a following already? Like you had a following on Instagram for people to actually see this?
Yeah. So there's another backstory to this. So I grew my following on Instagram, not through parenting. It was actually through fitness. So many years ago, I had to go in for surgery twice. And I was like, you know what? I never want to land up in hospital again. I hate this crap. Hospital food is crap. I don't like the feeling of being a sick person, and I'm going to get fit. And so I went on this I'm going to go from this really skinny to a strong person. I'm going to build muscle and get strong. And I documented that process with just filming my workouts. So I did at home workouts. I would just jump around in my living room and I would just put my iPhone there and record myself and upload that. And for some reason, people are apparently interested in seeing some person jump around in their living room. So I would record that and I would just post it. And yeah, at one point I had 100K followers just because of fitness. I didn't have anything to sell. It was just me working out and just sharing my journey. And then I had my kids and I stopped working out entirely because who has time with a newborn? And I just stopped posting for a really long time. And then when I had this business idea, all I did was change my my handle to Juicy Parenting. And then that's how I got started. But then I later learned that this is not a good idea. It's not a good idea to just change your handle because it's bad for your Instagram. But I didn't know that at the time. So here we are.
So, I often say that your audience is the most important piece to this. If you don't have, you could have the world's best funnel, world's best course, all that. It doesn't matter if you don't have an audience. And here you were building an audience in a niche that is completely unrelated to what you do now, but it worked out really well because you at least had somebody to launch this to. But how much crossover was there? Because I can tell you, when I launched this brand, when I launched the Online Course Guy brand in 2017, I launched the podcast. And then about a year in, I was like, well, here we go. Course on courses. It's time, right? And I didn't have much of an audience, but in this space, but I had this massive email list for piano in 21 days. So I tried to launch that course to my piano list and didn't make any sales because there was no crossover there, right? How were you able to get interest in a different niche? Maybe there was just a little more crossover than my example.
I think there was a little bit of crossover. So what I have discovered is people will DM me saying, I've been following you since your fitness days. I also became a mom at around the same time you did. So I think there is some crossover there. But to be honest, not a lot. I think at the beginning, when I got my first 30 people into my course, that was really people who had been following. I still posted on stories a little bit, what I was doing with my kids. at the time kid. And I also belonged to a lot of parent groups at the time. So I don't know if you guys have these, but like mom chat groups and parent groups with people that I took birth classes with. So when I launched, I didn't just put it on Instagram. I also posted to those groups. And then with time, those people shared it with other people and so on and so forth. Also, I should say, because of my journalist background, I still write stories for the newspaper. So I will sometimes see something in the news that's parenting related, and then I'll comment on it. So like, for example, when Michelle Yeoh won for Everything Everywhere All at Once, I wrote a commentary about how there are actually a lot of hidden Asian parenting lessons in that movie. And then I wrote it, it got published, and then that got me out to more people. So I think my background in journalism helps that way as well, because writing comes easily to me, and I am able to pitch these stories. So I think that helps.
I love the way you initially launched. It's a method I wholeheartedly endorse, where you didn't just go make the course, you put it out there and decided to get a group of people together to teach it to live. And just before you spent all that time putting it together, you didn't want to waste your time, but also you could teach real people in real time and learn and figure out how to make the best possible course. I absolutely love that approach. But you started with a decent sized audience. If somebody wants to take a similar approach, but they're starting from nothing, what would you recommend?
Just be super helpful in the groups that you are in. So wherever your audience is hanging out, there are always forums, right? There are Facebook groups. For me, it's like parenting Facebook groups or parenting WhatsApp chat groups. I think what people don't see is that for a good, 2 years, by the time I launched my business, my kid was almost 2 years old. For a good 2 years, I was serving in those groups. Every time someone had a question on something, because I was doing those courses, I would write paragraphs of text being like, oh, you're interested in baby-led weaning and starting solids. This is what I'm learning from my courses. And I would write paragraphs of text teaching them what I was learning. And so by the time I was ready to launch, there was a group of people, apart from Instagram, who was like, oh, okay, Kelly seems to know her stuff. I'm interested to see what she has to say. So if you don't have any audience, I would say find out where your potential audience would be and start serving there first without any expectation that you are one day going to make money off these people. It's just serve first. That's what I would say.
That first group of 30 people that you said sold out so quickly, what did you charge for that?
Oh man, I don't remember. To be honest, I don't remember. Like stupid cheap. Ridiculously cheap. I genuinely don't remember. So what I did was I had a course, and then at the end of the course, I invited people to join my membership community for like ongoing coaching support. And what I do remember from that though, so the course was really cheap. I can't remember. I think it was like definitely under $100 for like 5 hours of training or something like that. And then the membership, I started with tiers. So there was like a $9 one, there was a $29 one, and then there was like a $79 one, I think, that you got like one-on-one access with me. And it was just stupid cheap. And I just told everyone that when you come in at this rate, I will guarantee I will never raise your price. You will stay, at this legacy rate forever, and you will continue to get all the benefits that new members get, you will get. You just will never have to pay more. And I have since raised prices several times, and I still have people on $9. So good for them.
Yeah, good for them. What is your offerings today and the pricings with those?
Yeah, so today I no longer teach the course first and then invite people to the membership. How it works is you can buy the course as a standalone thing at $199, or you can join my membership community immediately, and then you get the course bundled in for free. It's part of my membership. And then how that works is it's only really one membership. I did away with the tiers. It got too messy for me. I just wanted to simplify. And so I only have the one membership. You either are on a quarterly plan or you are on an annual plan. The quarterly plan works out. It's $147 a quarter. It's $49 a month USD. And then the annual plan gets you 1 month free, plus you get 2 extra bonus trainings. So it's way more streamlined and simplified now. That's the only way you get in.
I can either just buy the course alone, which doesn't come with support and community.
Yeah.
And that's around $200, or I can jump into the membership and get those get the interaction, get the support, plus I get all the pre-recorded training as well for either a quarterly or annual fee.
Yeah, and the quarterly fee is cheaper than the course. So it's
Sure,
like, come
yeah.
join
So
the
I
membership.
imagine most people do the membership. I mean, rough percentage breakdown of people who choose to sign up for the
Oh,
membership versus the course.
98% choose the membership. I mean, it's priced that way, right? Because honestly, for me, do we have time for another backstory?
Yeah, let's do it.
So for me, when I was studying this stuff, everyone only had a course. So I would learn from an instructor for a defined period of time. And it would make sense when I was sitting there listening to the instructor, whether it was live or pre-recorded. But then I would go and try and do this and practice this with my kid. And I would be like, no, this didn't work out as the instructor said. But by then, the instructor was long gone. I had no way to ask and be like, you said do this. Didn't work out. What should I be doing instead? And so when I created my offer, I decided that I really wanted a membership community element where you could get ongoing coaching with me. You would get ongoing access to me with live coaching calls. You could type a question in the forum and I would respond so that you could come back and be like, hey, Kelly, I tried doing this and it didn't quite pan out the way I was hoping. What should I do next? And it's really important to me that I don't leave people like just dump a bunch of content and you're off on your own. I want you to be able to actually put this into practice. And I do think, a lot of times people are like, why can't I just join for a month? I'm like, because change takes time. So the minimum commitment is 3 months and I don't apologize for it. I know that it's what's going to help you ultimately get results. I don't want to just take your money and then you don't get results. So that's why I set it up that way.
So if I or anyone listening wanted to go buy the course, join the membership, how would I do that? Because I noticed when I go to your website, it says that the membership is currently closed and there's really not much I can do on your website.
Yeah. So actually, Jacques, you have caught me at a very interesting time. It's kind of a period of change for us at Juicy Parenting right now. So when I first started it, it was join the course. I opened the membership to you on the back end when you are done with the course, right? And then I changed that about 6 months in to you can join anytime and you can get the course with it. And then literally just 2 weeks ago, I changed that model. I closed the membership. It's no longer evergreen. You can't join anytime you want anymore. And basically what we are doing now is we have launches and then you can join at the end of the launch, like you can join the membership. And in the time that we are not open, like while doors are closed, then you can buy like the course as a standalone. You can buy, I have a mini course as well that's specifically focused on peaceful bedtimes. That's something you can buy as a standalone. However, I have had to rework all of that on the back end. So right now you can't buy anything. Right now it's just like work in progress. I'm fixing everything. Come back later. So right now the only thing you can get is like a free guide that I post on LinkedIn sometimes. Not LinkedIn, Instagram. So that is how someone currently can join. You have to go through like a launch. So I just did something called Asian Parent Week. It was 5 days of me teaching and live Q&As. And then you could join the membership after. And so honestly, to be 100% honest with you, I don't know if this model is like, I can't be like, yeah, it's great because it's only been 2 weeks. But the reason I wanted to do it was because I didn't want to be in selling mode all the time, just being like, come join my membership. And there were really things that I wanted to work on, like bigger projects that I just didn't have time to do because I felt I was always in selling mode. So I decided I'm just going to close the doors, focus on these projects and then move from there. And then also one thing I'm very particular about is the culture in my community. Like parenting is such a fraught topic. Everyone has an opinion. People feel really judged for how they parent. And I really want to make sure that as we grow, our member numbers tripled last year. And it was just such big growth that I was like, whoa. Okay. I need to like get some things in place. And I want to make sure that we grow at a sustainable pace. So I was like, I'm going to close doors. Even though revenue wise, it's scary. I'm like, I'm just going to close doors and work on things that I feel need to be worked on first.
So interesting to hear because, most people want to move the other direction. They want to go from live launches to evergreen. But it's interesting perspective of saying, I'm tired of just selling all the time. Let me only do it. How many times, like how many times a year do you plan to launch?
Probably twice only.
Only twice?
Well, if you maybe have like little flash reopens. Sorry?
Yeah. I mean, that's scary for a lot of people to only do it twice a year. but you've got the recurring revenue model going. So you're making money every month, even if you don't launch, right? Do you mind sharing some rough numbers of, active members and how much you're making each month currently?
Yes. So we've got 300-ish members right now who are active, like on a subscription. And then we're making comfortably like 5 figures a month. And so that translates into like 6 figures a year. Just crossed that mark last year. Like everything really blew up last year. So that was really fun to see.
Amazing. Yeah. And like you said, I mean, some people are paying $9 a month, right? And then some people are paying the current rate. You've got a range in there. How are you
and
getting
what's
people?
cool is, sorry, I was just going
No,
to say
please
that
go ahead.
what's cool is with the recent launch with Asian Parent Week, I saw people who had canceled. One person was on $9 a month and she had canceled at the time. And she's now back at $49 a month. And so I'm seeing actually lots of people who were like, okay, I think I'm good. I'm going to leave for a while. And it's transparently communicated to them at the point that, the legacy rate only stands if you continue as a member in good standing. If you leave, you're going to be coming in at the current rate. And it's actually quite encouraging to me to know that people are willing to come back at a much higher price because they're like, I need this in my life. I've tasted what it's like not having juicy parenting. So I think that has been encouraging to see. Although I do feel a little bit like, dude, why did you cancel? You were like my founding batch.
One of the biggest downsides, I don't know if that's the right word, but to doing more of a membership model like you have versus an online course that's more of a one-time fee is your churn rate, right? If you can't get people to stick around, then you're not really growing, you're not really making much money from it. How are you getting people to stick around and how are you reducing overall churn?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, our churn rate's pretty good. I'm quite happy with it. It's like 5-6%. So 95% of people stay. And which is really good numbers and I'm happy with it. I think there are always things we can do. So, I mean, first of all, the basic of obviously have a really great product where people feel the pain if they leave it, right? Like you want people to feel like when I have a parenting issue, any parenting issue, I'm going to come to this community and I will get it solved. I don't have to struggle alone. I think that's a big part, like having community. People stay because they know they can't find that elsewhere. It's very hard when the rest of society is saying, hit your kids. And there's only this tiny little oasis that's like, you're on the right track, hang in there. So I think that's number one, just have a banging product. And then number two, I think having a calendar where you are constantly offering something new. So in my membership, it's not, the deliverables aren't just like come to the community and people will answer your question. It's also there are live coaching calls with me twice every month. There are mini lessons that I write that will expand on something I've taught in the course. And I will go more into a certain concept. I'll tell you more about how to put one tiny thing that we talked about into action in a very deep way. I also have guest speakers that people really like who come on. So we had a pediatric dentist come on to share like, how do you prep your young kids for the dental visit? Like oral health. Let's talk about it. How do kids not be afraid of the dentist? We had a swim coach come on to be like, how do you introduce your kids to water without it being a traumatic experience? So I think having a planned calendar helps as well. And I'm moving more into that direction. So that's also part of the reason I've decided to close doors because there are things I want to work on that's going to help with retention as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the membership model, both for the client and for the business.
Do you have any non-Asian members?
Yes, I do. We have a few Caucasian people. We have some people from Latin America. And it's fascinating because they will often say, I know all the content that's out there for the general audience. And somehow your Asian parenting focus speaks to me, even though I'm not Asian. I'm like, sure, come on in.
Juicy parenting. What does that mean? How did you come up with that name?
To be honest, the part that was really intentional was the parenting part. I didn't want it to just be moms. I wanted to make sure that this reached out to both dads and moms because parenting is important on both sides. That was the really intentional part. The first part, was literally just like, what's going to stick? What are people going to hear and be like, that's a weird name, but I remember it. So that's how I decided on juicy parenting. And I was like, okay, everyone thinks that, oh man, okay, so my logo has like a tiny little citrus slice and everyone thinks it's an orange. There's another backstory to that. But very quickly, when I created my logo, I just went into Wix. They had a logo builder that was like free as part of my plan. So I was just like, type out juicy parenting, find some citrus slice and put it on. It's meant to be a lemon, but everyone thinks it's an orange slice because how I came up with the colors for my logo was like, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I don't have time to think about this. I don't think it matters that much anyway. I just looked at like existing parenting brands and I found that Pampers uses those colors. And I was like, I'm just going to use those colors. I don't want something super feminine. I don't want something super bro-y. Let's do something in the middle. Teal, orange, great, done. Didn't realize that people think it's an orange slice. And the thinking behind the lemon and the juiciness is that parenting is not always going to be sweet, right? The journey can be very, very sour. There are very many difficult moments that try and test us. And yet there's so much goodness we can extract from it. So that's the idea behind juicy. That's why it's supposed to be a lemon slice, but everyone thinks it's orange. So maybe one day I'll do something about it.
I mean, an orange lemon kind of looks like an orange, right?
I know. So I shouldn't have done a slice. I should have done like the fruit. Then you would know like, okay, that's a lemon.
Obviously
Not that it
working
matters.
either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I want to ask you one more question about your live calls. How are you able to do those with so many members?
Well, not everybody shows up. So I think on a call now we max will get like 40 something people on the call, 40 to 50. On a quieter one, maybe only like high 20s. So not just because you have 300 members doesn't mean 300 members are going to show up. And so how it works is it's really informal. People just come with their questions, they unmute, and then I answer it. And at the end of the hour, we're done. And if you didn't get your question answered, you can always post in the forum. And then that's where, we can get to your answers, your questions as well.
Okay, so everybody's on camera. I was kind of thinking maybe it was all through the chat.
No. Yeah, people put their camera on. We just host it on Zoom. Some people are feeding babies, so they don't put their camera on, putting kids to sleep. But yeah, so, I mean, there are several deliverables. Like when I tell people what they get, it's a twice monthly group coaching calls. There's access to a forum where you can post a question, like text-wise. There are my mini lessons, and then there are videos where I respond to a question via video because it's just quicker for me than like typing something out. So what's interesting is some people are like diehard coaching call people. They will come for every coaching call and they're like there to learn in a live setting. But for some people, maybe the timing doesn't work for them or they're just not into calls. They just want to read things. They're not really like video people. They just want to read. So they'll lurk in the forum a lot. And then some people don't comment in the forum. They don't come to the coaching calls, but they're consuming the content a lot. So I think I have noticed, I think when I first started, I was like, oh no, everyone has to come and get all the value out of everything. And then very quickly I learned people have different consuming styles and it's just on me to provide the variety and then people use it how they will. It's not really up to me to decide. And I think it's good to tell people that too, because sometimes people come in, they're very overwhelmed. They're like, oh, there's so much resources in here. How do I get everything? And then just telling people like, hey, how you want to use it is the right way to use it.
This may be a bit of an ignorant question, but you have an Asian audience. I noticed all of your content, everything is in English, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever consider things not being in English?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions from people saying, can you do a Mandarin version? I would love to. The problem is my Mandarin isn't great. I can order food and survive in China, but I'm not going to be able to teach about this in Mandarin. So one thing I have thought about is like, do I want to hire someone to like do it? Like, should I maybe AI translate everything or should I have someone, I train them as a coach too, and they can speak to a Mandarin audience? I don't know. It doesn't feel authentic to me right now. So I haven't done that. And in Singapore, the primary language of instruction is English anyway. So at least locally, it's not a deterrent. And then we have people from all over the globe who are in the membership. So English makes sense for me right now.
Okay. So I think this is a similar question, but how do you decide what currency to charge?
Yeah. I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts on this too. So I charge in USD just because everyone's all over. Some at the beginning, people were like, why aren't you charging in Singapore dollars? I'm from Singapore. You're from Singapore, blah, blah. But I just decided USD. Well, first of all, practically, when I first started, I had a very lean, I don't even call it tech stack. It was like a tech layer. I just had Circle. I run my community on Circle, and Circle at the time only had USD. They still don't have SGD. And at the time I was just like, well, I just need a way to collect money and deliver the thing. So I just need Circle, Zoom, done. And so I just charge in USD. But as time has gone on, I now have Thrivecard. I mean, there's the option of charging in SGD as well, but I haven't switched it. Doesn't seem to be a problem. The only thing is I obviously am getting, currency conversion charges, right? So what is your take, Jacques? Tell me.
Well, look, I don't have a great take because I'm very, very biased. I'm in the US. I've never considered taking any other form of payment. It's never been an issue for me.
You have clients from
but
everywhere though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my audience is global. And okay, certainly we've gotten questions about, okay, how much is this in Australian dollars? How much is this in pounds? Things like that. But I've never considered charging in anything else because that's what I use. That makes sense to me. But for people like you, and I have clients who their primary currency is something else, I think it just matters about your audience, right? So for example, I had a client who was in Wales, and her niche, she only taught people in Wales. Like nobody, because of what she taught, nobody outside of Wales would have ever bought her course or should ever buy her course. So she charged in pounds. Makes sense.
Right.
I have other clients in the UK who they have a global audience and they charge in USD.
Right.
I think that's probably the way to go.
Right. Cool.
It's obviously working for you once again.
Yeah. I don't see a need to switch it. I do think sometimes, like when I see the Stripe conversion, I'm just like, oh man. But yeah.
So you mentioned Circle. I want to talk about tools a little bit. Tell me about how it's been running your membership inside of Circle.
I love it. I recommend it to everyone.
What do you love about it?
Well, first of all, I really wanted to do something off Facebook. So most parenting things I run on Facebook, and I'm just like, hell no. I don't want people wasting more time on a time-wasting platform. I want it to be separate. Privacy matters to me. Paying for something feels like at least I'm safeguarding that. We're talking about our kids. I want it to be private. But I like the feeling of Facebook, and Circle very much feels like Facebook. It's like feed-based. Better than Facebook, though, you can actually organize things very well. So you have like dedicated spaces to specific things, which I really, really like. It's easy to navigate. I think that's the thing I like about it. And like I said, when I started, I just needed a way to collect money. And I was like, I didn't have a website. I had like a page that said coming soon. That was it. And it was just Circle. Circle was the way I charged people. I like it so far. I think that what I'm impressed by is they always have improvements. So they're always sharing things that they're working on, and they're very receptive to product feedback ideas, which matters a lot to me. So it has changed a lot actually since I started my business. And I enjoy it very much. I haven't felt the need to look elsewhere.
I believe when they launched years ago, I don't think they had the like course feature, but I think they do have it now. So your courses are in Circle as well?
So when I started it, I put my course in Circle. They didn't have a course space. I just set it up I just put like video one post, video two, another post. And even though they have the courses feature, I haven't moved it over because it's working. So like that's one day I will do it, but so far it's still in the old method. It works for my purposes.
What other tools are you using?
So to be honest, that's all I had for the longest time. I didn't even have an email thing. Funny story, when I launched, my email that went out to people who had filled up that Google form, I sent it via Gmail, and then it landed in everyone's spam folder because it looked like it was trying to spam people. Do that. I didn't know, Jacques. I didn't know. And then, Spencer, we know Spencer Russell.
Spencer Russell
came into my life, and he was like, "What?" And then he was like, "Do you have a list builder, like a lead magnet?" I was like, "I don't even know what a lead magnet is. What is your funnel? I don't know what a funnel is." And then he was like, maybe think about something like Kajabi that can do everything for you for where you're at right now. And then that's when I started using Kajabi. So right now I have Kajabi as my website. I have Circle as my community provider, like my platform. I'm thinking of moving to ConvertKit, to be honest, because I think email wise, I've outgrown what Kajabi can do, but I'm not there yet. That's one of the reasons I closed my membership so I can work on that. And then I finally have Zapier. So for the first 2 years of my business, it really was a one-woman show. I did everything myself, like the website, I created it, the course, I created it, the marketing, I was doing it, the Zapier, the automations, I was poorly doing it. And I finally managed to hire someone who's helping me with that. And we discovered that I was having people who had not paid for the membership in over a year and was still having access because my automation to remove people wasn't working because I set it up. So lots of things that I have learned since then. But I would say, yeah, that's what it looks like now. Oh, I also have Deadline Funnel. I like it very much. Yeah.
But you're going away from Evergreen. Why do you need Deadline Funnel?
Well, because when I do my launches, there's still a deadline to join. So I still use that.
Good. I love that.
Yeah.
How did you meet Spencer?
I bought his course. So I took his Toddlers Can Read course. And I remember DMing him on Instagram being like, I am very much about child-led stuff. I feel allergic to your message about teaching young kids to read because in Asia, it's very much like high pressure, get your kids doing things that they aren't ready for because you want to like beat everyone else academically. And he responded back with like, I kid you not, like a string of voice messages, like talking to me about it. I was like, wow, okay, this guy's really genuine. I like what he's saying back to me. Okay, I'll try his course. And then I really liked what he was teaching. And I quickly realized it wasn't coercing kids to read. It was doing it in a really developmentally appropriate way. And I really enjoyed it. And then I was following him on Instagram, and on his stories one day, he posted that he's opening up free business coaching. And I was like, I'm applying. I'm going for this. And then so I applied and was part of his first batch.
Very cool. Yeah, look, I've taken all of Spencer's courses and they're phenomenal.
Right? They're so good.
Yes.
I love them.
Yes. So let's talk about Instagram. Is that the main way you still drive traffic?
Mm-hmm. It's the only way. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that. So 2 months ago, I started running Facebook ads, meta ads, just to my free PDF. So that's a work in progress. I'm still trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. But up until this point, everything has been organic and it's all been through Instagram. Sometimes I flirt with TikTok and LinkedIn, but I'm not consistent, so I wouldn't really count them. I learned about UTM codes, so I put them in now, and all my traffic comes from Instagram, really. The one thing I did change was this year I started an email newsletter, and it started off being like twice a month, and then people liked it. I moved it to once a week, and then now it's 3 times a week. And I love it. I enjoy it a lot. Surprisingly, my open rates are pretty good. The unsubs actually went down as I emailed more. So I don't know. It's working. I like it. I really enjoy email. I'm wondering why I didn't do it earlier. I guess I just didn't know.
You didn't know. You didn't know what you didn't know.
I didn't know. I was just like, email? Who does email? No one wants to read an email because I don't really read emails. But then I quickly learned I don't read emails because most emails are crap. Sorry, but it's true. They're very salesy. They don't really, you don't feel like you're being spoken to like, as in you are a human, as an audience person. And I did some email marketing courses and I really learned like, oh wow, okay, this is why I don't read emails. And if I want people to read my emails, I need to do it differently. So that helped.
I'd like to stay on Instagram for a little bit longer, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
When you were telling your story, you said you started the Instagram more as your fitness journey. I think you had mentioned getting over 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Changing the handle. So it's the same Instagram count, but today I'm looking at your Instagram, 57,000 followers. Did you prune?
Yeah, I did. So I got rid of like 40K, I think, at this point.
How did you do that?
Yeah. So, well, the why was I learned from Spencer that changing my handle was not the best idea because there were 100K people who were looking forward to seeing me jumping around my living room who were now getting parenting advice from a different handle and like, who the hell is this? I don't want parenting advice from this random ass person. And every time that person then swiped away, it told Instagram, oh, this content's not great. And so at one point, I seriously, I still am. It's an option. Everything's an option. At one point, Spencer and I were talking about just burning Instagram down, like just killing my account and starting from scratch and seeing how I would grow from there. But then I decided that like, I was working on launches and I was like, I don't want to have to deal with this new thing and build up Instagram from scratch. So what I did was I ended up, on Fiverr, is it Fiverr? Yeah, on Fiverr, there's this guy who has an AI thing that combs your thing. And they
I've
found
used
like,
it.
you've used it? Yeah. So I used that. It's
Yep.
like 40,000 like dormant accounts that weren't really interacting with my stuff. I was like, get rid of all of them. So, I mean, it's like, it's painful in a sense because it's like, numbers wise, of course, 100K looks nicer than 50K. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want it to be a vanity metric, right? Like I want it there to do something for my business. I don't want a bunch of followers, but like no engagement with my content. So I did massive pruning.
Yeah, we probably used the same person because Spencer and I both had the same social media coach, and I got that resource from her.
Mm-hmm.
And there was two services. The first one was to identify the accounts to
Yes.
remove, and the second service was to actually remove them, which is not as easy as you think because you don't want to remove people too quickly. Because will Instagram like close your account if you do that or something?
Yeah. They'll like flag you and like just say you're a bot and not good.
So it took like a month to do the removing, and with you over 40,000, it might have taken even longer. I bet.
Yeah. It's been, I think, 5 months now of this. Yeah.
So what's your strategy on Instagram?
What's my strategy? Is there a strategy? I mean,
I
I
hope
try and
so.
post. So I try and post a minimum of 3 times a week. I try and be as helpful as I can. Honestly, at the beginning, if you ask Spencer, I was very much like gatekeepy. I was like, but if I tell people this stuff, then they're not going to come to my cause. And he was like, no, like give, like serve. And I was just like, okay, I trust you. I'm going to do it. And so now I just kind of, I talk through what problems people have. I ask people on stories, like, what do you want to hear me talk about? What problem do you have that you want me to solve? And then I try and go through those topics. I try not to be super salesy. I focus more on serving so that when the time comes to be salesy, it's like, I've given you so much. Would you like even more, better stuff? So that's on the posting, like the feed side. And then on stories, I try and go on stories every single day. And I try to do a little bit of like, I found people really like behind the scenes stuff, like what's going on in my life, like as a human being. So I do a little bit of that. And then I share a lot of client wins on stories. So because I have a community, I always have people posting. So it's either I'm sharing their wins or I'm sharing the questions they're having. And it's really great because it opens up a conversation with people. They're like, oh, I didn't realize you talk about this in your membership. Like, how can I join? So I think that has been really helpful as well. And then also sometimes I'll just post stuff I'm keen on, like nail polish I have on. So no, like hardcore, super like, I need to post like this kind of strategy. I'm just trying to use it in a way that I enjoy. But honestly, I don't really enjoy Instagram. If I could go without Instagram, I would. I
Well,
would.
it's one thing to grow a following on Instagram, grow your audience there, but it's a whole different beast to get people to leave Instagram and go buy your product, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is the key to being able to get people off of Instagram, go to your website, go to your funnel, whatever it is, and buy from you?
I don't know. Can you like tell me the answer too? I don't know.
Well, you have 300 active members. How did that happen?
um, I think sharing real stuff helps. So instead of like selling all the time and telling people what I can give you, just talking about what is actually going on in the community really helps because people can see themselves in the stories that I'm telling. And I'm not even telling the stories. They're screenshots from my community. It's not like I'm telling you about someone. I'm just sharing you word for word, verbatim what they wrote. And a lot of times people will be like, oh, wow, this kid screamed and cried for 20 minutes about having to brush their teeth. I relate. And then on the next slide, I'll share like 2 weeks later, they'll share an update being like, wow, I tried doing what you said. 0 resistance tonight. No tears. Happy to brush teeth. And then people see that they're like, oh, wow, if it could happen for this person, why couldn't it happen to me? So I think showing them the power of that transformation that could happen. And I always tell people like, I'm not special. My clients are not special. We're not unique in any way. We just have closed knowledge gaps. We know what to do, and then we actually do it, and then we get results. And so that could be you too. And I think when people feel that, oh, that could be me too, then it's like, okay, I will click this link. I will see what else there is out there. And then like for my list builder, my lead magnet, I really, the idea is I'm going to tell you one word you're using as a parent that is making your ability to hold boundaries like just crumble. Your kids are not going to listen to you because of this one word. And so people think that they're going to come and get this one word, but I really try and over deliver. And so I give them so many more pages of advice. And I want people to walk away from that feeling like, wow, if this is what Kelly gives for free, imagine what she gives in her paid thing. And so I want people to experience that feeling of like Kelly over delivers, and I know I'm going to be in good hands. And so like Spencer pushed me to create a lead magnet. At the time, I didn't even know what it was. And I remember sending the draft to him and him reading it. And he was like, okay, you really know your stuff. Like you are definitely a parenting person who knows your stuff. You're not just someone who is like spouting parenting platitudes and, just saying what everyone else is saying. And it meant a lot to me because he's like an award-winning teacher. He really knows how to work with kids. And I was like, okay, got this endorsement. Let's do it. And then I found that, yeah, people were really resonating with it. So I think just trying to over deliver, not just like doing what you said you would do, but then doing a lot more really helps. And when people have that experience, they're more likely to say, okay, I'm going to take out my wallet. I'm going to make this purchase.
Are you directing people with a call to action, like providing content, showing wins from inside of your program and saying, if you want to join, click here. If you want to download this free resource, click here?
Yeah, on stories. So every day I try to do like at least one call to action story.
On stories.
On stories with a link. So because I'm in this flux where now you can't even join my membership if you wanted to, and I don't have my website set up where you could buy my course as a standalone, I haven't been doing that in the last 2 weeks. I've just been sending people to my newsletter to be like, sign up. You'll find out when I open doors again. In the meantime, you'll get parenting tips. But prior to this, I had an evergreen webinar and on eWebinar. And what I would do was just post about that every single day. And it was really good. Like 14% of people converted. Like out of everyone who landed there, 14% would then buy. But I did find there was some fatigue, like sending people to the same link every day.
But aren't you doing that now? Aren't you sending people to the same link now, even though it's different?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think I fully figured it out. Like I'm trying to see like, oh, should I create another lead magnet? I don't know. But yeah. The nice thing about the newsletter link now though, is that because I sent things 3 times a week to my email list, I'm not sending them to the same thing. They're going to get something new all the time. So I think that helps.
So as a very high level Instagram strategy, what you're doing, is it fair to say that like your reels, your content that goes to your feed, that's to draw in people from the outside and kind of start following you? And then the stories are to build more relationship with the people that are following you and get them to then convert over to your email list or into your membership.
Yeah, that's right. I love how you phrased it because I at the beginning, I was like, there's no strategy, but there is strategy. Thank you. So yeah, I would say that's super accurate.
If that's it, then like if we're just posting content and we're making reels or carousels, but not doing stories, you would suggest that's not a good strategy, right?
Definitely do stories because like your biggest fans are on stories already. They're following you. They're ready. They're like, I want to buy. Tell me, how do I work with you? Yeah. And like,
have you watched one of my stories on Instagram?
Have I watched your stories? I mean, in the past, yeah. Not that I can.
Yeah, I've never done a story.
Have you never?
Never.
Then I have never watched a story.
Yeah, I'm learning, Kelly. I mean, Instagram has not historically been a big traffic source for us. With Piano in 21 Days, the main traffic source is YouTube. And with this brand, it's always been, this podcast. And so
Right.
we're trying to grow Instagram. And I know I should be doing stories for the reasons that you're saying, but we haven't done them yet. We've done pretty good this year posting regular content. You may have seen some of that,
Yeah.
but we're still not doing stories. I wanted to hear it again, just make sure I was right on that. That stories are important for the actual like conversion, like getting people off Instagram, taking an action, whether it's buying something or just joining an email list or downloading a lead magnet. That's what Spencer's always told me too, is that the stories are really the key there.
Yeah. I don't know how you do it without stories. Like stories are like my have to do. Like even if I don't post, I will be on stories.
Okay. I'm learning so much. Well, Kelly, look, we've been going about an hour now, so it's unfortunately time to wrap it up. Let's close with just advice you have for people that want to do what you've done. What steps do you recommend people take?
Well, I think I would say that take everything as an experiment. You're not married to anything. You can just try and experiment and pivot and just be okay with change. And I think a lot of times people don't start because they worry what it looks like if they fail. But there's this great quote from Nelson Mandela, and he talks about how I never lose. I either win or I learn. And I think that is so useful in life in general, in parenting, but also as a business owner, as a course creator. If you can take that mindset of you never lose, everything you do is just setting you up for the next thing. You're learning something new and it's going to help you for the next time. Then you're never really losing, right? You're either winning or you're learning. And I think if people can take that mindset, then they can just start. They don't have to be hung up on like, does my logo look perfect? Are people going to care? Like just do it. You don't know. And then, you know, because you've done it and then you can do it differently next time. So that's what I would say.
Very good. So if anybody wants to learn more about you, see some of your content, I'm going to guess we've got juicyparenting.com and we've got Instagram, Juicy Parenting. Anywhere else people should go?
No, that's great. Just go there and then sign up for my mailing list because I genuinely enjoy writing those emails. You know, as an ex-journalist, I write. It's my thing. So I enjoy it more than Instagram, to be honest. So sign up for my mailing list too. You get free parenting tips to your inbox.
Amazing. Kelly, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
5 figures a month from a membership essentially teaching Asian parents to stop hitting their kids. An incredible story, a really interesting niche, and congratulations again to Kelly for what she's done and how many people that she's helped, and I'm sure that she's just getting started. This has been episode 229 of the Online Course Show. To find the links and notes from today's episode, head to oc.show/229. And if you're interested in learning more from me about how to start or grow your online course or membership business, I have a free workshop for you at oc.show/workshop. In this workshop, I'll share with you the formula that I've uncovered after 11 years of running my own successful course business, as well as 7 years of interviewing others on this very podcast. There's common threads among those that are successful with this stuff, and I share it all with you in that free workshop at oc.show/workshop. I hope to see you on that workshop. Thanks for listening to another episode here, and don't forget to take action on what you've heard today. I'm rooting for you.